Hello and welcome to the Scatterable channel, and today let me go ahead and cover what I think are the best and worst graphics cards to get in the month of May. So in this video, I'm gonna go ahead and dissect all of the major and currently available graphics card options from the big three, AMD, Nvidia, and Intel, and I'll tell you guys which ones are good to buy right now in the month of May, which ones are priced really poorly, or which ones are just in a weird spot and should just be avoided all outright. Which, speaking of, links to all of these graphics cards that I talk about in this video can be found in the description below if you want to check any of them out, including, not our sponsor, but my really cool website called PCBuilds.gg. This is my cool little nifty website I've been working on over the past few months that show off my recommended PC builds in different price ranges and for different uses. So there's quite a bit of versatility for this website. Even if you aren't interested in building any of those PCs yourself, it should be a helpful tool or reference if you do want to build anything custom in the future, just as a nice little template you could follow. So that's in the description, as well as the rest of these graphics cards. So again, PCBuilds.gg. Pretty cool, you should check it out. And with that said, let's get straight into the video. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump a section in this video because I usually start with graphics cards priced from like $100 to $200 or $200 to $300, but I'm gonna start things off right at $300, right at the really popular mainstream mid-range graphics card, because this has seen the most movement out of this entire video. And I'm smiling because this is very good news. Imagine like one of the biggest comebacks of your favorite athlete or favorite figure, and imagine that for graphics cards, because right now you can snag the Radeon RX 6700 XT for $300 on Newegg and $310 on Amazon right now. That is better than Black Friday by $30 on both platforms. And no one's reporting this, because we're not in a prime buying season for graphics cards. It's not Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's not even the summer, it's right before it. And this is the absolute all-time lowest I have seen for this graphics card. And honestly, pricing this graphics card at this really low price is cannibalizing even the new 7600 XT that released a few months ago that retails for about $30 more than this right now, which is very bizarre from AMD. Now, if you don't know the 6700 XT, or even for that matter, the 6700 XT, which is also priced really well right now, it's only $10 less than the 6700 XT. Let me give you a rundown of both of these graphics cards and why they've received so much praise over the years. In a nutshell, these graphics cards just offer the most raw horsepower per dollar. And that goes for the hardware, that goes for its overall performance, as well as its capabilities, and it's really only lacking in like 1.5 areas. This has 12 gigabytes of VRAM, excellent 1440p gaming performance, and again, you can get all of this for $300 on the mark, and just about the only thing you can ding it for, other than slightly subpar ray tracing, which, all things considered, if you're gonna be considering ray tracing in your gaming PC, you probably wanna spend at least double this amount, because you wanna play it at a higher resolution with better graphics. I don't see the point in doing ray tracing at like 1080p or at 1440p with this kind of graphics card, but it's AV1 encoding and decoding. That is not supported on the RX 6000 lineup of graphics cards, which is a very nice thing to have if you are an aspiring content creator who wants to record with the most efficient codec there is possible for your gameplay, or even stream to YouTube right now with the AV1 codec, which is better than NVENC or AMD's own traditional H.264 codec. So that is about the only thing you can ding the 6700 XT and 6750 XT on, but otherwise they are outstanding graphics card options, and I wouldn't recommend any other graphics card in this price range other than one. Gentlemen, or ladies and gentlemen, the comebacks don't end there, because I thought this graphics card was done for. I've been saying over the past few months, the 6800 is gonna go. It's gonna go. And then it comes back, and then it leaves. And for this month of May, it's back. And it's back at a really excellent price. Currently on Amazon and Newegg, you can pick this up for $370, which is the same price you could have picked this graphics card up during Black Friday and Cyber Monday. That's again, excellent and outstanding. What is AMD planning? Is this like the final push? Are they finally wanting to get rid of their RX 6000 stock that bad? Have they made too many of these old cards? I don't know, but the 6700 XT, 6750 XT, and now the 6800 are all going for incredible prices right now. If you are in need of a mid-range graphics card that is really good for 1440p or even a little bit of 4K, AMD has you covered with their old RX 6000 series in this price range. So I would avoid, let me grab it. I would avoid the RX 7600 XT. This graphics card is brand new, but more or less, it's the exact same RX 7600 that you know, just with 8 gigabytes more of VRAM and a higher clock at $330, which makes 0 sense if this is within $50 of it and has better VRAM at that. And yet again, still makes no sense if you can get the 6700 XT or 6750 XT for the same price, because as I saw in one of my benchmark videos on the 6700 XT versus the 7600 XT, it lost for the most part. All of this had a little bit more VRAM, but it's not like true high quality 16 gigabyte VRAM because it still has that small 128-bit memory bus. That's some just technical stuff that we're not gonna quite get into this video. But TLDR, avoid that graphics card, and you really want to not look at the available NVIDIA options as well in this price range. The first one you might think of is the RTX 4060, and all I gotta say is that this isn't necessarily a bad graphics card, it's just horrendously overpriced. This should be selling for $270 at most, but NVIDIA, like what they did with the 3060, is not gonna budge at all with this graphics card. This is gonna permanently stay at $300, have 8 gigabytes of VRAM, which I think at this price point, something you definitely wouldn't want to have in a graphics card, because AMD is just pricing some graphics cards that have more and higher quality memory at the same price, or at times lower, and the 4060 just, it's not there. I wouldn't even really consider this graphics card for ray tracing because it's just not fast enough. You want at least an RTX 4070 for ray tracing because you just need a graphics card with more raw computational performance. Then there's frame generation, and that is something to consider with these RTX 4000 cards, and I only find it to be a nice thing for single player games, because for those games where you want to have a slightly more graphically intense experience, frame generation is a very neat way at increasing your frame rate while not really reducing graphical fidelity a whole lot. But for competitive games, you don't necessarily want frame generation because that deals with fake frames, and I don't know if you'd want that. Not to mention, a lot of those competitive games don't even support DLSS 3.0, just traditional DLSS, which is also supported on RTX 3000 and so on and so forth. In a nutshell, the 4060 is just overpriced. It needs to come down, and any of these AMD options I just covered are going to be substantially better for gaming. But a graphics card you should outright avoid in this price range is the 4060 Ti, for pretty much the same reasons as the 4060, except this kind of is a bad graphics card. It didn't even manage to really beat the graphics card it was meant to replace, the 3060 Ti. In fact, this comes in with slightly poorer quality memory because this has a 128-bit memory bus, whereas the old 3060 Ti came with a 256-bit memory bus. And in some games, it was faster than the 4060 Ti. Oh, and did I mention that for the same price as this, you can get an RX 6800. Yeah, why? You would not want to get a 4060 Ti for gaming if you can get a 6800 for the same price with double the memory bus, and just a lot more performance that you're going to be thanking yourself for because of that extra VRAM and extra memory bus that you have to play around with for 1440p and beyond as the years go by. Whereas the basic memory on the 4060 Ti is definitely going to run out of steam in a few years, and you're probably gonna need to replace this ASAP if that happens. And while the RTX 4060 Ti 16GB does improve on some of these flaws on the 8GB model because it does have more VRAM, that doesn't take away from the fact that, like the 7600 XT, it still has that small 128-bit memory bus. It's still very much overpriced. And like what I just said with this graphics card, if you're looking at that 4060 Ti 16GB, then you might as well look at the RX 7800 XT, which has been coming down in price and is in a completely different league than the 4060 Ti. Trying to compare a 4060 Ti to an RX 7800 XT for only a few dollars more is like if you're a 5 and you're trying to ask out like a 9 to prom. It's just not gonna happen. She's in a completely different league. So once again, avoid the 4060 Ti, including the 16 gigabyte model, at all costs. So let's go ahead and take things back a notch to how this video would have started, covering the best graphics cards for under 200 bucks. Now, unfortunately, a lot of those popular AliExpress graphics cards that I would be recommending in this price range have been seeing stock and inventory issues, which is why if you look at my latest $700 PC build and you click in on the PCbuilds.gg link at the top, you'll see that I replaced the graphics card, which would have been the RX 6600M, with the Intel Arc A580, because the RX 6600M and consequently the RX 5700 XT you also could have gotten through AliExpress. It's just not really reliable in stock anymore. Maybe they aren't being produced or they're going up in price. They're just not really reliable to depend on, whereas the A580 has been smack dab killing it at $165, or I think even $160 as of filming this video for this exact ORC edition card on Amazon. That is very good. And these special edition Sparkle cards are quite nice. I mean, the PCB is blue, the cooler is blue, you get a little bit of a light on the actual Sparkle logo on the graphics card itself. It's a very cool GPU for the price, and thanks to some of the latest benchmarks from Gamers Nexus testing this graphics card versus the other graphics card that is within its firing range, I can now deduce that the Arc A580 is on average faster than the RX 6600, with the exception of like 2 games. One of those being Starfield, which again, come on, Bethesda, please optimize Arc for Starfield. But I guess Starfield wasn't a huge hit, so maybe not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, the A580 right now is probably gonna have to be my pick for the best graphics card under $200. You get 8 gigabytes of memory with a 256-bit memory bus, which for comparison, the 6600 has the same VRAM, but with a 128-bit memory bus. So that's a little bit of a one-up for the A580. This also features the Intel QuickSync codec and a dedicated AV1 codec. So if you at all wanted to delve into any video editing or content creation with the A580, you can use that AV1 codec in DaVinci Resolve or Premiere Pro, whatever video editing NLE you want, and that'll help speed up the process. For any sort of video timeline work, dragging and dropping videos, it's a nice little tool to have, and you can also export in AV1 as well. And of course, if you wanted to stream with the AV1 codec, you could do that as well. So it's great for gaming, and it's a really great budget pick for video editing. So my pick goes to the A580. The 6600 at 190 bucks or even 200 on Amazon is okay, but I really think you're gonna get more value out of the A580, and also it just straight up looks cooler. Okay, now from $200 to $300, all of these graphics cards suck, except for one. Well, let me start with the one that you guys, for some reason, can't let go of, and that is the RTX 3060. This graphics card, technically, is no longer being produced by NVIDIA, but it's still selling on Amazon. Although the RTX 4060 can be found for literally $10 more, and is, in a way, the better buy despite having a lower amount of VRAM. For some reason, you guys still like this graphics card. I don't know why. It's slow, really overpriced. It's last generation. Any of the other graphics cards I'm gonna cover in this price range are not only less than this, but they beat it in terms of performance at 1080p and 1440p. So for all of the people in the back of the room who are still somehow buying the RTX 3060 into the year of 2024, don't. No, it's stupid. It's slow. What isn't slow is the RX 6650 XT. Okay, actually, yeah, it does beat the RTX 3060, but here's the thing, this is going for $220 right now. That's really good. That is very good in comparison to the other 2 graphics cards we're gonna cover in this price range, which I would not necessarily get. I would definitely get this one because it has the right hardware for a great price. Yes, it has 8 gigabytes of VRAM with a 128-bit memory bus, but at a price of $220. Is there anything to complain about? No. That's the same VRAM on the much more expensive RTX 4060 and RX 7600. Yet this is way cheaper. And this is Also, still fairly fast, even in 2024. It's just the best value option in this price category. There's nothing more I gotta say. Again, like the 6700 XT and 6750 XT, this does not come with the AV1 codec, so you gotta make that call if you wanna have it on hand or not for any video editing or game recording or game streaming. But if you're just looking for straight up pure performance, this is still a great buy in 2024, which honestly can't quite be said for the RX 7600. Again, AMD is doing some really weird tactic where they're very much putting some really nice discounts on their older RX 6000 lineup of graphics cards that in a way are still aging very well to this day and are performing pretty well in comparison to these newer cards from AMD, yet these new AMD cards are not receiving any competitive price discounts or anything like that to combat them. And that's the case of the 7600 right now. It's $250 on Amazon for only one card, but other than that, it's $260 across the board, which is okay, but it's not great. I mean, the 6650 XT that I just covered is within the performance of a 7600, but costs about 40 bucks less. And that's what I really like about this graphics card over this. So if you really wanted the AV1 codec, sure, you can get that with this, but it's not that hot. From AMD, it's, I think, an underwhelming graphics card. I would not really consider the 7600 right now. Now, the only other graphics card in this price category that is worth considering is the A750, which this one has a little bit of a question mark over it, because if you look across different retailers, this is either going for a very good price of $200, which I would definitely pick up for that price right now, or it's going for like $240, which is not worth considering since the A580 can be had right now for $160, which is really good. So the A750 is just a beefed up A580. Has all the same pros and cons as that. Again, that excellent AV1 codec and Intel QuickSync encoder and decoder for various types of video editing work, which is so nice to have, or content creation. But in terms of performance, I think I'd rather have the 6650 XT for $20 more if I could get the A750 for 200 bucks. But that's really about it. But it's not the worst graphics card in 2024 at this price range. I think it's definitely still a better value buy overall than the 7600 for 60 bucks more, that's for sure. Now from $400 to $500, before this would have been a poor price category, but it's actually gotten a little bit better thanks to some price discounts from AMD on their latest graphics cards and not their previous generation RX 6000 cards. But once again, just to state the obvious, don't get the RTX 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte, because for about $25 more, you can get the RX 7800 XT, which is going to give an absolute ASS whooping to this graphics card in so many ways. The argument of frame generation and ray tracing are just not applicable in that kind of scenario because the 7800 XT punches so well above its price, whereas this does not. So again, don't bother with a 4060 Ti 16 gigabyte in my opinion, but what you should bother with is the RX 7700 XT. This graphics card finally got its price readjusted to something that is more accurate to what it should be, which is $420, but right now is selling for $400 on the dot, which is much better to consider if you wanted something from AMD from their latest lineup that isn't terrible for its price. Okay, let me clarify that, because a lot of AMD's RX 7000 cards get like way better as they go up in numbers and in price. So like the 7800 XT, the 7900 GRE, the 7900 XT, those are all fantastic graphics cards. It's like the 7600 and the 7600 XT that are just kind of lackluster and just not really worth considering. And the 7700 XT was about to fall into the same fate. But again, AMD priced it accurately now and it's selling for 400 bucks. It's much better. 12 gigabytes of VRAM at 400 bucks is still pretty good. It's also got price to performance that is representative of its $400 price tag. But I will note that the RX 6800 in theory is the better buy for about 30 bucks less and comes with more VRAM, but doesn't feature the AV1 codec. So it's up to you how much you want to value that. So if you're a pure gamer, still consider the 6800, still a very excellent card. But if you want something that has that AV1 codec for streaming or content creation, then the 7700 XT is not too bad. Now from $500 to $600, you really can't go wrong with any of these graphics cards. Now, I would say there's maybe one to not really look at because it's not necessarily a bad graphics card, or for that matter, I wouldn't even say that it's poorly priced because its MSRP did get readjusted. It's just that the other graphics cards that are surrounding it are just that much more exceptional for the price. So that little odd man out would have to be the RTX 4070 right now. It's not that it's bad, it's just that the 4070 Super is a much better graphics card for like 50 bucks more. Either way, the 4070 Super was meant to supersede the 4070, so if you at all thought about getting a 4070 in 2024, no, no, it's time is done. Because the 4070 Super, in my opinion, is the best graphics card right now from NVIDIA's RTX 4000 lineup. And finally, this is a graphics card where I can say, if you wanted to take advantage of those ray tracing experiences at higher resolutions with frame generation, then this is an appropriate graphics card to take advantage of those NVIDIA exclusive technologies, which is something that I can't really say for the 4060 Ti or 4060 because those graphics cards just lacked raw horsepower, whereas the 4070 Super for its price definitely has raw horsepower in spades, which is a weird thing to say for NVIDIA graphics cards to be valuable at a price point, but here we are. That's why the 4070 Super is really good in my eyes. Just about the only thing you can possibly nick it on is that it has 12 gigabytes of VRAM, which at its $600 price point is okay, but I think we need to acknowledge that the actual hardware in the 4070 Super is just that good to make up for it. It's delivering really excellent performance at excellent efficiency as well, so power consumption on this graphics card is actually not that crazy. I think in some scenarios it actually beats the original 4070 in terms of efficiency, which is to be expected because it's a Super Series card and that's kind of what they did. But again, just goes to show that this graphics card for $600, so it's not overinflated like the 4080 Super, is really nice for the price. So if you want an NVIDIA graphics card at any price point, 4070 Super is going to be the best value option. However, if you want the best price to performance, no matter the brand, you're going to want to go AMD, like with the 7900 GRE, which is now even better because thanks to a recent driver update from AMD, you can now tap into better memory overclocking capabilities on the 7900 GRE through the AMD Adrenalin software, or maybe it does it stock straight out of the software, maybe you don't need to tune anything. But now this graphics card has a similar relationship to where the 4070 Super was versus the 4070 with this graphics card versus the 7800 XT, the other really outstanding graphics card in this price range. Because now the 7900 GRE, I think, is very much worth considering over the 7800 XT despite costing 50 bucks more. Again, thanks to that recent driver update from AMD, which is now unlocking even more performance from this graphics card, which is always a good thing. And as usual, this graphics card offers just excellent hardware for the money, 16 gigabytes of VRAM. It's a cut down 7900 XT, which that in itself is already a fantastic graphics card. And like I said, thanks to that recent driver update, this is the graphics card that's going to offer you the best price to performance out of this price category, which was held by the 7800 XT, which this graphics card I think has been losing a little bit of steam lately. AMD has been a bit finicky when it comes to the pricing of this graphics card. They can't decide if they want to leave it at MSRP, which is $500, which is good, but the 7900 GRE for only 50 bucks more, in my opinion, is more appealing. Or at times they're like, okay, we'll finally give it a price reduction. And then it actually turns out to be a very good deal. Because I think not too long ago, it popped up at $485, which is good, but I didn't think it'd last that long. So in my opinion, I would only consider the 7800 XT, which is so similar to the 7800 GRE, if it goes for below $500. If you can't find it for below that, or if it's above 500, don't consider this. Get the 7900 GRE. But still, this graphics card is infinitely better than the 4060 Ti if it's within $40 of it, being that 16 gigabyte model. All right, and from $700 to $800, or I guess 600 to 800. This is a bit of a tough one. Well, actually, it's not even tough. I'll straight up tell you what the best graphics card in this price range is, and it isn't the more expensive one. It's the cheaper one. Wrong box, hold up. Okay, here we go, the 7900 XT. And yes, I do mean it. This is the best graphics card in this price range, despite costing $100 less than the new 4070 Ti Super that was meant to go toe-to-toe with this. And when it did, it kind of lost. When it came to raw performance, that is. I think the biggest selling point for this graphics card is the hardware, because you get 20 gigabytes of VRAM for $700. That is excellent future-proofing at a price point that, yes, it is expensive, but it's not outrageously expensive. And I think if you could take good care of this graphics card for a long while, the hardware and the driver updates from AMD are gonna make this thing age like fine wine, like we've been seeing so far with the RX 6000 series, as I covered earlier in this video. But like what I was saying with the RTX 4070 Super, if you're someone who wants those great single player experiences with ray tracing and frame generation, this is the right price point to go ahead and delve into those NVIDIA preferred technologies if you want to run some of the latest games at some of the highest graphics settings with ray tracing. And although this graphics card in terms of raw performance not only failed to beat the 7900 XT, but it also kind of didn't really improve that much upon the original 4070 Ti, at least this card comes with 16 gigabytes of VRAM, which I have to give it credit for. That makes this a much more comfortable purchase in my eyes if you want to keep this card long term, because that extra 4 gigabytes of VRAM will definitely go a ways if you want to play anything in the future that's going to have high textures, that's going to definitely load up on your VRAM. So the 4070 Ti Super is not bad for the price. The 4070 Super is the better buy, but this is okay. I'll say that, it's okay. But ultimately, I think the 7900 XT just has better hardware in this price category. But again, I could see the reason why you want a card like this for better ray tracing performance, because who wouldn't want that in a graphics card that's gonna cost, you know, above 700 bucks. And now we have finally reached the top two. Has the 4080 Super finally gone down in price to where it's actually worth considering over this? The answer to that question is actually yes. The 4080 Super has been slowly dropping in price across a bunch of different models, and now you can pick a few of them up, especially from Zotac, right on for $1,000. If you even wanted a white edition of a 4080 Super, that isn't going to have the white tax that would make it like 1,200 bucks. You can grab it for $1,070. Now, my only concern I'm gonna tell you, as well as if you're interested in this graphics card, is that there's definitely rumors and talks about the new 5090 and 5080 probably coming out this fall. Now, I'm not gonna give in to the rumors and speculations, because that's not what I do. I only like to hear from the actual manufacturers themselves as to what these new graphics cards from NVIDIA are actually going to be. I'm not listening to any leakers or rumors, because those don't have any true substantiated claims behind them, and I don't like to listen to them because at the end of the day, they could be false. So you really just gotta go ahead and play it by ear at this moment in time. And at this moment in time, the 4080 Super for $1,000 is not bad. This comes with 16 gigabytes of VRAM, which is just about the only thing you can really knock it down for. It's kind of like with the 4070 Super. That's okay, but more definitely would have been nice, but at least the raw hardware you get for the money, I think makes up for it, especially if you can get it for $1,000. And all in all, if you're getting a graphics card for $1,000, you probably obviously wanted to do ray tracing at the highest order if you wanted to do that in any future AAA games that are going to definitely dive more into that single player ray tracing, super graphically beautiful experience, which in that case, the 4080 Super is for you. But if you're someone who wants the highest frame rates possible without spending so much money that it hurts your wallet and your bank account to no end, then that's where the 7900 XTX comes into play. If you wanted the frame rate monster for under $1,000, this is it. So for all of you people who play multiplayer games, you want the lowest latency possible, you want the fastest frames possible, the 7900 XTX has more raw performance than the 4080 Super. I hate to break it to you, but that's just simply the thing right now. And the good news is that this graphics card comes with the same amount of VRAM as the much more expensive RTX 4090, while costing almost half as much. So that 24 gigabyte VRAM buffer that comes on the 7900 XTX is definitely going to serve you well, not just now in 2024, but probably into 2027 or 2028 when Grand Theft Auto 6 finally releases on PC, and you could probably run that game really well at 4K with this graphics card, just thanks to how much VRAM it has and how much raw performance it has as well. So I would like this if you want a card that could last you longer and you maybe aren't too crazy about ray tracing and frame generation. But if you are crazy about ray tracing and frame generation, then here's the 4080 Super. As for the 4090, bro, not even. If you're interested in the 4090, wait for the 5090. Literally, that's your best course of option, because the 4090 is just ridiculously overpriced right now. And you're probably gonna make your money back if you actually wait for the 5090, literally. Anyways, that is it for this video. And once again, all the graphics cards that I covered in this roundup can be found in the description below, along with PCBuilds.gg. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a like. That always helps out these videos in the algorithm and helping spread the word and showing more people what graphics cards to and to not get in this day and age in 2024. And if you enjoy my style of content, my personality, my vibe, then a lot of my videos are like this, and you should probably subscribe, because I'm not really gonna change from this. So with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and this is the Skydervolt channel, signing out.